Welcome to Lock It Down Sports. I'm your host, Locke Hoover. You can follow me on Twitter at Lock It Up Media. That's Lock It Up Media over on X. You can also check us out at E5280 Sports. That's E5280 Sports. And today on the show, there's a potential trade partner for the Atlanta Braves, a college football playoff format change that's being talked about, and a unique Airbnb place. But first, I want to get into this, and that was, of course, the college football playoff. And there was really only one good game. And I didn't expect it to be the game that game. We're gonna get into that a little bit later. But first one we're going to talk about is Georgia and Notre Dame. This was the exact same Georgia team we've seen all year, really. It really was not a surprise what we saw from Georgia. As, you know, they're a good football team, not great. They weren't great this year. They were good. Good enough to win the SEC. Not an elite football team. They were just, they were good. And what I mean by this is what we've seen all year from Georgia. Slow offensive start. Wide receivers dropping passes. Some turnovers. Scored in the third quarter to make it close and have a shot. And we saw a lot from Georgia. Slow starts, not being able to get the offense going in the first half. Get some momentum, get something going in this third quarter. And then they grind it out and they win. It was more the same, except for they didn't win. Notre Dame played clean, good football, and made plays on special teams with a kickoff return for a touchdown. And then that 4th and 3, I believe, on like the 19, where they had their special teams unit on. They ran them off, put the offense back on, then the quarterback, then the Georgia jumped off sides. So sure, it's an offense, but it's more like a special teams play, in my opinion. I mean, when you look at this game, I mean, the Georgia offensive line too struggled. They couldn't keep a clean pocket, and Gunnar Stockton was in traffic, and he had to scramble a lot. But interesting enough, Georgia had more total yards, first downs in the football game. But they had 2 turnovers to Notre Dame's 0. And I mean, when teams are close like this, that stuff matters. The turnover game. And that's a big deal. I mean, there's just little things in the game. The kickoff return for a touchdown. That's like a free possession, basically. And then you have the turnover right before half, trying to make a play. Notre Dame go down to scores. 2 big swings right there. And when you're a good football team, but not great, it's hard to overcome those sorts of things. And that's really what happened in the game. Notre Dame's good. I don't think they're incredible. I don't think they're winning a natty. And that moves me to the next team of wow. This team's winning the natty. And that's Ohio State, as they, every phase of the game, absolutely dominated Oregon. And the scene in the Remember the Titans, where they say, leave no doubt, holy smokes. Everything Ohio State called offensively was clicking. And it makes me feel a little bit better now that what they did to Oregon, to say, you know what, maybe Tennessee wasn't wasn't that bad after all. Maybe the Tennessee game wasn't too bad with Tennessee being in Columbus, cold environment, hostile crowd, even though there was a decent amount of orange in the building compared to Oregon on a neutral site game. Yeah, there's no way in the world Texas has beaten Ohio State. What we've seen in the last 2 weeks against Tennessee and against Oregon, the most dominant team in the playoff, and I don't think they have a chance. I mean, Texas did not have a chance to beat Ohio State, even though it is in the Cotton Bowl. Even though it's in the Cotton Bowl, I still don't see. Yeah, there's going to be a bunch of Texas fans there because it's close, but I think there's going to be a good amount of Ohio State fans there too. They aren't afraid to travel. But speaking of the Texas and Arizona State game, by far the best game, ended up being obviously the best game in the playoff thus far, and it wasn't looking like that either. I mean, obviously you saw Texas being in control. They're able to, run the football, be more physical against Arizona State. And I thought it was pretty much done after that touchdown by Texas to go up 24-8. It's like, oh, well, all right. And then Scadaboo put on his cape and got Arizona State back in that game in a tied game. And obviously the overtimes and all that. But I said from the jump, I like Texas in the game, but Arizona State was a dangerous team with Scadaboo. They were playing hot, playing well down the stretch to get into the college football playoff. And they were a pretty good team. Had their opportunities, but couldn't get it done in that overtime, obviously. But heck of a comeback. They became America's team. Everyone was cheering for them, right? To get back into the game, take it to overtime, and give us the best game in the college football playoff thus far. So there's that, and everyone's excited for them. Now, Texas uphill battle, like I just said, against Ohio State. Now, not surprised with this one. Penn State rolls, beating Boise. Boise, they hung in there. Based on what we saw all postseason, yeah, Boise deserved to be in the playoff. Sure, I'm fine with that. I've always said I've been fine with the winner of the G5 to get an automatic berth in the playoff. Whoever that team was, whether it's Boise, whether it's Fresno State, whether it's whoever, fill in the blank, UNLV, Liberty, whatever. I'm fine with them getting into the playoff. And when I was talking with people, it was Penn State should have, and they did, load the box up and make Boise try to pass it on them. Because Gentry, that's their guy, that's their stud. He played well, but that was tough. Now they've got Notre Dame. I like Notre Dame in this game. I like Notre Dame beating Penn State. Two fairly evenly matched teams. Hopefully we can get a good game. Maybe. Hopefully. We've had one this entire playoff. Hopefully we can get one out of these two games be good. And I think the Penn State Notre Dame game have a better chance of being a good close game as opposed to Texas and OSU. I don't see them beating Ohio State the way they've played, and they are one of the most talented rosters. They've spent on it too. About 20 million, I believe, something like that, around 20 million in portal money they've spent, which kind of sucks, but that's where we're at. That's the name of the game this day and age in college football. So that's where they're at, and they got to go perform like the talent, the free agents that they're being paid and they're supposed to do. So I think they will. And we got games on Friday and a game on Saturday before the Natty on the 20th, I believe. It's on a Monday night as always to avoid competing with the NFL. But another round of college football playoff. Thankfully, we got at least one good game. Now, I'm surprised we have not seen much movement yet from the Atlanta Braves, as it's been a quiet offseason. They're going to do something. I'm not panicking. I'm not worried. It's been a slow market, really, outside of Soto. Then Fried was the second domino to fall. Then it was basically Corbin Burns of your big pieces. Yes, you had others like a Jock Peterson. The first base market has been kind of shuffling around with some signings, some trades. You still got Pete Alonso out there. But outside of that, there really hasn't been much movement of your other guys. Not much from the trade front either. And there's been some rumor of the Mariners looking to trade Luis Castellanos, excuse me. And I think he's a good fit for Atlanta. He's got 3 years and $72.45 million left on his 3-year deal. 31. He's only 31. And he's a solid middle of the rotation piece for a rotation. And another thing I like about Luis Castillo, or a few things I like, honestly. He fit in Atlanta he could be a 2-3 type starter. But this is a big one. He's never thrown less than 150 innings. And that 150 innings was only in 25 starts. So I love that number. And I said that's the least because I'm not counting the COVID year, obviously, and I'm not counting his rookie year when he got a handful of starts. So basically, every full year in the big leagues, he's never thrown less than 150 innings in 25, and that was only in 25 career starts. Has a career 3.56 ERA, 3 games under 500, 73 and 76. Not worried about that. I like the 3.56 and the 150 plus innings as at least he's thrown. Ks per 9.7 Ks per 9. And the Mariners were wanting infield help, is the rumor. Braves have Nacho Alvarez as a potential chip. Maybe he's a shortstop, maybe he's a second baseman. I think at this point, yes, the Braves do need a shortstop in the future. Regardless if he can play short or not, though, I'm fine with them parting ways in the deal with Castilla because Arcia is not blocking anyone. He's not blocking Nacho Alvarez. If Alvarez is ready, he'd be a shortstop right now. Can he play shortstop? That's the other question. I mean, I think give a little bit more of a conversation if he is a shortstop. If he can play shortstop, maybe you don't do it. You're a believer he's the next shortstop in Atlanta. If he's a second baseman like Von Grissom, then we've got a Von Grissom situation where we've got Ozzie under contract for at least another 2 more years before his contract's up. Hopefully the Braves resign him if he continues to produce. I think they will. But if he's second base and only got Ozzy for 2 more years, what are you gonna do with Nacho? I don't think Nacho Alvarez itself would get it done. So that's when you include some of these pitching arms the Braves have. Maybe you include a Bryce Elder and Dylan Dodd. Maybe you can get all three of them. Maybe it's Nacho, Bryce Elder, and Dylan Dodd. If that's the case, you do it. Maybe they can eat some money. Maybe you can take the money. I know there's been articles and conversations about the luxury tax and all that, but Anthopoulos has continued to say we're gonna have a bigger payroll. So, okay. Now, if Elder and Dodd don't get it done, then maybe it's Nacho and Bryce Elder. I view Elder as better than Dylan Dodd at this point. And you give him another lower level upside arm. I don't want them to trade like an AJ Smith-Sawyer or Hurston Waldrop for Luis Castillo at this point. Too much upside in both of those guys. Smith-Sawyer can get it straightened out, lights out. Waldrop can get his control under. He's got dynamite stuff. Still too early to me to trade on them for a Luis Castillo. Now, if it comes to money, maybe the Braves have to add a higher level prospect, but I still don't think they should. They're probably going to ask for him, even though they've got an elite catcher in Drake Baldwin. They've got Mariners got a good catcher in Cal Riley over there. He's a good catcher. Braves also have a top prospect in Drake Baldwin. Next in line for Sean Murphy. Murphy gets hurt. Drake Baldwin's your guy. Lit up AAA this year. Did good in the Arizona Fall League. Will be playing every day in the minors. And he's the next guy in line to replace Murphy if he gets hurt. Now, Chadwick Trump right now is looking like he's going to be the backup catcher for the Braves. Play once, maybe twice a week, which is partly why they got rid of Travis d'Arnaud so Murphy can play more. You're not spending $8 million on a backup catcher. But Chadwick Trump's not an everyday starter like Drake Baldwin is. So that's where they are with catcher and situation. Now, I've said this all along, and AA has as well. They're going to increase payroll, and they need a starting pitcher along with an outfielder. To me, this would be an upgrade over the type of starting pitcher the Braves were going to go get, as they would need a back end guy. And I've done topics on this in previous podcasts. Bring back a Charlie Morton type, or maybe Charlie Morton himself, or a Justin Verlander. Back end starters who eat innings and pitch and give you a chance to win. And that's what you're looking for with the way this rotation is set up. And you're going to need that for the first probably 2 months. A more bona fide type guy with Spencer Strider out. He's probably out till maybe he misses all of April. Whenever he comes back in May. So first month and a half, maybe 2 for Strider, you're not getting him. That's a lot of starts. That's a lot of innings. So that you need one of those type guys. And I think the Braves are going to sign one or trade for one, but that's where they're at. And I think Luis Castillo is a good fit for this Braves rotation. Now, something that we've seen has not been a good fit, has not been a good setup, was the college football playoff seeding. There's been rumblings. Heard today that this wasn't going to happen. There's talk that it could happen, and it's already been under consideration that they might consider ranking teams based on their rankings and not necessarily their seedings. So their seedings and their rankings are different. So what I mean by this is Texas was the third ranked team in college football. They would have gotten the bye if they did this. Same thing with Penn State would have gotten a bye as the fourth ranked team in the college football. And they were replaced the byes from Boise State and Arizona State as their conference champs. See, to me, just because you're a conference champ doesn't mean you should get a bye in the first round. Yes, because, right now it was the top 4 highest ranked conference champs got the bye. So that's why Clemson was the only team that didn't get the bye. Boise was ranked ahead of Clemson. I'm fine with automatic. If you win your conference, you get an automatic bid. I'm okay with that. That part I'm completely fine with. But just because you win your conference doesn't mean you should automatically get a bye as the highest ranked team. To me, no way Boise should have gotten a first round bye and had an easier road than other teams. Another thing that to me was very interesting in all this, Arizona State and Boise both had the byes, right? They were both underdogs in the game. Yes, I know you have to play the games on the field, and it's only hypotheticals with point spreads in Vegas and all that, but it is very interesting, and it does tell you something. Vegas they're not wrong a lot. They aren't. So it's a very telling to me about that. And yes, you want to move the example. Well, Alabama was a big favorite against Vandy, Oklahoma, and who else did they lose to? Oh yeah, Tennessee. They were favored on 3 of those games, and they lost. Yes, that's part of my point. I know this. You have to play the games on the field, the hypotheticals and all that. But there is some merit and there's something to that. Having the byes and being the underdog, one less game you have to play. But we've seen how the college football is. We've seen how this committee is. Very path of least resistance. Let's do as little as possible to make any changes or anything like that. So I hope they change it. And of course, if that were the case, that would have completely re-swapped out everything, how the first round matchups would have been. So it's a wait and see. I don't think it'll change, but for next year, but there's got to be conversations about it. Now, speaking of conversations, I think this would be a fun conversation to have and to stay at if you were to be staying in Bristol, England for a visit. As for $600 a night on Airbnb, you can stay in what's allegedly Pablo Escobar's private jet. It's a 2-bedroom, 3-bath private jet set up for Airbnb. And that's interesting. I think that would be a unique place to stay at, to see the comforts of Pablo Escobar, even at that time in the 80s, how his private jet setup was, and then the transformation of it to be a Airbnb. My question is why is it in Bristol, England? I don't understand that. They never really said much on why it's there, but that would be a neat, unique, fun place to stay in an Airbnb, especially it being Pablo Escobar's private jet for $600 a night, which is pretty pricey, but why not if you can? As always, I'm Locke Hoover. Listen to Lock It Down Sports. You can follow me at Lock It Up Media, Lock It Up Media on Twitter. You can also check us out at E5280 Sports. I'll talk to you next week.